in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving Iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This is the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by TractorZoom, delivering insights. And my guest this week is Kyle McMahon from TractorZoom. And once a week we sit down, or once a month, we sit down and kind of talk about what's going on in the auction world. And for those of you that don't know what TractorZoom is a great platform to go out and just see what's out there as far as auction inventory goes, and also a great way to figure out what trend lines are. I use TractorZoom quite a bit at the dealership, and it's one of those tools that I use that kind of gives me, I like to look at it because it gives me a year over year, of inventories that are out there. And when I asked Kyle to come on this week, I brought him on for a specific reason because there is a monster of a sale coming up here on the 30th. Today is the 27th of June, and on the 30th there is a big, massive sale in at Sinclair Tractor, and it has got quite a few pieces on there. So Kyle, welcome to the show, man. How you been?
Good, thanks for having me. Good to talk with you. It's going to be, I think this is going to be an exciting conversation.
Yeah.
Not very often do you get to watch 75 combines sell online in one day.
Yeah.
From one seller,
yeah. This is going to be, I think this might be, I know they had some big ones in the 80s. I know there's some big case dealerships in Iowa, Illinois, one of the two that went out, and I think they might have had 100 combines that they had to sell at an auction or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but this is one of the big ones I've watched or looked at even on a sale bill. So this is the first time I've ever looked at a sale bill, and it looked more like a Christmas catalog than it actually looked like an auction sale bill. So I guess as you start looking through this, Kyle, what are a couple things that start standing out to you about this auction?
I think we're tallying up right before this, there's 207 pieces selling. I'd say 90% of them are all harvest equipment. As we're looking through it, there's just a quick high level, there's 19 John Deere 608Cs, so 8-row corn heads. There's 13 612Cs. So it looks like they're selling about 40 row crop headers, 35 platform headers, 75 combines. It's a gargantuan of a sale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a big number. I look at this, and I've been waiting for this for a while because this is going to have a big effect on the marketplace. There's enough numbers here that whatever happens at this auction is going to be a trendsetter. So let's just start with just a few trends right now that you're seeing out there. So let's talk about of the 75 combines that are out there. I think 60 of them are S-Series combines, right? And I guess as you start looking at the trend lines here, there's 2012 to 2014 model combines that I've talked about all the time on here and kind of where they're at. There's a big swath of those. So let's start with that chunk first. What are the trend lines looking there? Have they changed any? Do you see anything different over the past 30, 60, 90 days that say, hey, you know what, I'm seeing an uptrend, I'm seeing a downtrend, or I'm seeing more inventory being online than you've seen in the past years? I guess what are you seeing out there?
All right, so the interesting thing that we're seeing on this Sinclair sale is they are bringing 19 S680s to market. There's of that split out, actually over half of them are between the 2015 and 2017 model years, of which I think is really interesting because we haven't seen a lot of those at auction. As you know, the OEMs didn't produce as many 15, 16, 17 model year S600 series combines as they did 12 to 14. We've always seen that glut. And if we look at auction prices and auction results, we look at model years 2015 to 2017. Of the 100 comps that we've seen sell at auction, only 21 of them are 2015s to 2017s. We know there's not as much of that inventory out there, and they're bringing on average at, all across the board, those model years, 195,000. If you look at on the opposite end of the spectrum, the 2012s to 2014s, there's just way more of them out there. We've seen 80 of those transactions, and they're bringing on average $125,000. Naturally, those older combines have a lot more hours on them, a lot more usage. But I think what's going to be really interesting about this sale and unique is they're bringing some more lower houred inventory to market, of which we haven't seen in a while. So I could see there being some competition there.
That is the thing about this, just like you said beforehand, there aren't that many 2017 machines that have gone through an auction. Strictly because of just the number of units that are out there, that are physically out there to be bought. And I really think that at this auction we're going to see these machines sell for more than what I think people are anticipating. Just for the fact of there's plenty of guys out there that are looking to do something. I know the COVID-19 thing and how it's done, what crop prices are looking like, and those kind of things, but we're still going to be up against the having to do something, right? And quite frankly, this timing of this auction in June, when you start looking at people making a move towards their fall equipment needs, it really is in a pretty good spot, right? So that late June, early July time frame, even guys that are looking in the northern wheat belt, there's still some opportunities to get some machines up there. So I'm really, if anything that I'm excited about here is what happens with these later model machines.
Yeah, and I'll let you in on a little secret that we see from data. This isn't my perspective. This is what the data shows. Every time we look at data, naturally we see big auction months of March, August, and December is the biggest months, right? We directly see an impact of higher prices regardless of commodity prices. We see a direct impact of higher machine values and prices at auction the months prior to those big gluts of auction inventory. Personally, I think to attribute that to the guy on the front end of the spectrum saying, hey, this is a nice machine, I need to buy it because it might be too competitive come big auction season, right? And what they actually do is they end up spending a little bit more and every time you take some more buyers out of the market, the closer to in season you get, or the
right
end of auction season
makes
you
sense.
get.
That makes sense.
So I think that these guys have, or I think these two I think Sullivan's and Sinclair's have strategically positioned themselves to be on the front side of that curve, which is a good thing for them.
No, that's a good point. Those correlators you do see that run up in price a little bit right before, right the between months between wheat harvest going into fall harvest. So yeah, there's some correlators there for sure.
Okay, here's something I want to chat about, Casey. So if we look at all the platform headers, they're not bringing of the 35 platform headers they're bringing to market. They are all flex heads. There's 4 drapers. The rest of them are just flex heads. Now, in your experience at the dealership, what are you seeing guys really
I think
wanting to
more
purchase today.
guys are more moving towards a flex draper than they are a rigid head and a flex head combo type of thing, like you used to see. I think more guys are saying, I can get a flex head and I can lock it tight, and I've got a rigid head, and I can also use it to cut my. And then at that point, I've got a head that I can cut about every crop I've got outside of row crop, crops. So I think those flex heads that are on there now, it will be interesting to see how they pan out, because again, the 35 footers are probably going to be the most common, but you still have a great pocket of the world where 25 and 30 foot flex heads are sought after, especially in the international market. You start looking at Eastern Europe and Ukraine, and you start looking into like Northern Africa and places like that. The 25 and the 30 foot heads are kind of sought after, and I don't know why that is, because their fields are as big as any field that you've been in the Midwest, right? But they've I don't know if it's a transport thing or if it's a freight across the water thing or what it is, but those are a pretty sought after size. But then you start looking at places like southern Missouri and in some of those areas where the fields are a bit smaller, and there's still a large amount of people that still use a 25 and 30 foot flex head. So sometimes those machines actually bring a premium for what they are.
Yeah, and in the last, let's use iron comps to look at the last. So what's going on since about January 1st. We've seen 38 of those 635 flex heads come to market, and on average they bring in 12,000. But I really think we need to narrow that in a little bit more. These are selling from anywhere North Dakota, South Dakota, Illinois, Montana, kind of all over the place. South Dakota. So if we look at the inventory of flex heads that they're bringing to market, there's a couple of the 2018s, but looking at the inventory, a bulk of them are between that 29 and 2014 mark. So if we look at the data on iron comps and look at 2009 to 2014 data, they're selling for about $14,000 on average. Now we could always narrow in on a location. However, I think that's going to be challenging at this auction, because I think buyers will be coming from all over the United States.
I think there's
if not internationally.
International buyers on this one here for sure. I think there's going to be that's the beautiful thing about internet, man. It brings in buyers from all over the place. So I really believe that there's going to be I'll be interested to talk with Dan and the fellows over at Sullivan's when this is done, to see where how many actual bidders they actually had on signed up for this. So it'll be interesting to see that number.
Yeah, and if we look at just on these 635 flex heads, we look at just the ones that have sold at retirement and estate sales. They're bringing just over 15,000 on average, and this is a dealership. I imagine Sinclair's gone through a lot of this inventory before they're selling it. So I would like to think that these prices are going to bring more of retirement or estate prices versus a true liquidation or a consignment auction.
Yeah, you could probably see some of that. I think there'd be a fair amount of the stuff that has been through the shop, been fixed up nice, but I think you might get a combination between like a consignment and a well, I think you're going to be between a consignment and I don't think you're going to get consignment pricing. I don't think you're going to get retirement pricing, but you're going to fall somewhere in the middle there.
Okay. So if we're looking at this inventory list, what else
the
stands out to you?
There's a significant amount of corn heads on there, and quite frankly, but the 612 folding heads down there, those 16s and 17s, I don't know that I've seen one of those sell at an auction yet. a folding corn head. Have you guys got any of those? 612 FC. Okay.
We have seen two of them, and Sullivan's have sold them both. One brought 82,000,
How long
one brought
ago was that?
65,000. So, the one that brought 65,000 looks like it sold at their site in Hamilton, Illinois, in March 31st of this year, of 2020. And then the other one sold for 82,000 December of 2019.
So for 2015 folding corn head to bring $82,000, to me, I think that's for the year it was and what was there. I feel like the 82,000 is a pretty strong number.
It sold at their consignment sale as well.
Does it have the serial number in there by chance?
I do not see it on this one.
What did it sell for?
The other one has the serial number. 16 sold for 65,000.
Why it sold for such less? When did that one sell? Both at the same time?
Now this one sold March 31st of this year, so 2 months into COVID, or excuse me, 2 weeks into the true COVID period. And I think at that point, Sullivan's went on online only.
Okay. Let's look at something real quick, just for fun here.
It's not a chopping head. Has row sense.
So, what are your thoughts on the corn heads as you look across that whole gambit there? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of them. There's 38, 606, 608s, and 612Cs selling. Where's Sinclair Tractor is primarily Southeast Iowa. It's actually where I grew up. They're my hometown dealer, so know some of the guys over at Sinclair. There can be a pretty wide range of terrain that guys are farming. Those 608, I mean, there's still a lot of guys that aren't on 24 row planters, and they're still running 16 row, especially the further south, closer to Missouri you get, which is kind of where I would have grown up, just because of the terrain, a lot of no-till. So I think naturally those 608s that are there, are obviously going to be pretty popular. The 612s, there's going to be a larger geography for where they're going to be sold. And we're seeing a price increase of about $10,000 from the 608s to the 612s. So 608s, if we look at a 608 that's bringing on auction today, 608C, we've seen 151 of them sell. The average is $24,000. But if you just look at what's been selling, it looks like a lot of the inventory of those 608s is between 29 and 2014. There's one 2016, but the rest of them, I'd say 90% of the inventory. There's 19 608Cs selling, and 14 of them are between 11 and 14. So if we just look at model year 11 and 14, 11 to 14, we've seen 64 of those sell, average of $26,000 today. And if we look at just the last 6 months, that price is around the same, $24,500. Of course, that's across the
that's
entire
the
US.
other thing too. There's a lot of 608Cs, and for the amount of for the inventory they've got. I didn't realize there was that 8-row corn heads were still that big of a draw in that part of the world. I figured more 12 rows were going to be more 12-row and 16-row heads would start popping up, and maybe that's why they're selling them on an auction too. Is that they just have so many?
Yeah. But don't forget, Casey, we actually have hills
out
here
here
in
too.
Iowa.
More mounds than they are anything, but they work the same. But back to those folding corn heads. If you look at what they actually brought comparatively to what they were when they were brand new, that 15 brought almost 80% of its cost, brand new cost, when it was new at that auction at $82,000. The 16, for some reason, only brought That was a chopping head too, so it would probably I bet it brought similar numbers, I guess, when you start figuring chopping in there and everything else. I bet it brought pretty close to about the same, because that chopping part of the corn head's about, $20,000 or so. So it makes sense. So they were bringing about 65% or so of their actual retail value when they were, or not retail value, of their cost, what the cost was when they were new. So I guess that's what you would anticipate, which is very strong for as old as they are. You know what I mean? You're looking at 5-year-old heads, 4-year-old heads that are still maintaining a 65 cents on the dollar, what it was new. That seems to be fairly strong across the board. So it's pretty impressive. It'll be interesting to see, because those folding corn heads that are on there now, they're newer ones, right? They're like 17s. Wasn't that right?
Yeah, they are. The folding corn heads is a 16 and a 17.
So I would anticipate seeing something.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're chopping heads or what they are, but there's I should anticipate it.
Yeah, if we look at them on their proxy bid sites,
cents, knife rolls, hookups, so those look like they're folding corn. No,
yeah, I'm not sure either of them are
non-chopping heads.
chopping heads. Yep. Yeah, so, I mean, based on that, we have one comparable sale to go off of that was a non-chopping head that brought the $65,000 versus the one that was chopping head, $82,000. Neither of these are chopping.
Right on. So let's take a look at the 12-row corn heads, just the non-chopping one or the non-folding ones, and see.
Yeah, let's go to Iron Comps, and we can just simply type in 612C, click search, and we get access to 105 of these auction results. Now, one thing that I just know is there's going to be some 20-inch and 22-inch corn row heads in here that are 12-row. So let's cut those out. Let's just, for example, let's just look at the 30-inch that we know are 30-inch corn heads. Because I went through Sullivan's site quick and looked at the 612Cs, and I quickly scrolled down, and all of them but one are 12-row 30-inch heads. There's one of them that's a 20-inch head. So let's just look at the 30-inch heads here. So, if we look at, we had said all of the bulk of the inventory on these are between model years. Every single one was between 2010 and 2014, except for one 2015. So let's look at what's going on in the market between the 2010 model year and 2014 model year. Then we can single out that 15 if we really want. So of the 27 we've seen sell, average is 31,000. If we wanted to look at what's been selling in the since December 1st of last year, that price is actually a little bit higher. Very centrally located in the U.S. at $36,000. So maybe some premium being paid to those years. Or here recently, since the wild ride of harvest machinery.
So what is what's the year over year? Like, give me what the 2018, 2019 kind of year over year inventory numbers, like what sold between January and December in 18 and January and December in 19.
Okay, so in 2020, we have seen 21 sell. In 2019, in 2019, we saw 54 sell. In 2018, we saw 29 sell. So 2018, we saw 29. 2020, we saw 54. And what did I say for 2020? we've seen 20 sell so far in 20.
So we're kind of on pace then for what you've seen on an average year, right?
Yeah, we are, but don't forget a lot of the inventory trades.
Right, absolutely.
Pre-harvest. Yep. So we're coming up on that really quickly, and so of these, we're going to see 13 sell in one day.
That is true. I guess so. It's prediction time here now. Let's get your crystal ball out. As you take a look at what's going on here, what are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen?
So, of all the data we've studied, I think these guys have, I think Sinclair strategically selected a lot of inventory that we haven't seen in the market. So, yeah, there's a ton of combines. We've seen a bunch of combines, but there's some lower hour machines in here. I guess is what I'm saying is they're staying away from the glut of that 1,200 to 1,500 hour machines. There's a few, but by and large, there's not, and we're seeing premiums being paid for that over 2,000 hour combine or under 1,000 hour combine, comparatively speaking, right? Combines are the biggest things happening. I know commodity prices aren't that great. We haven't personally seen over the last 3 months a big change in prices. So I still think that these will bring some pretty good money.
I think this is going to be a better sell than what people think it's going to be.
And this thing is hyped up.
Oh yeah.
And this thing is hyped up.
Yeah, I can't talk to anybody about it without it coming up. So, and rightfully so. I mean, if you're a neighboring dealer to this stuff, God bless you. I mean, I think this is going to be there's a lot of customers. There's going to be 207 customers that or 207 pieces that customers are going to buy, and I believe that customers are going to show up with the idea being that, well, I'm going to get a hell of a deal on a corn head today, or I'm going to get a hell of a deal on a combine, or I'm going to get a tractor cheap or something like that, and it's just not going to happen. I think it's going to be they're going to start fighting over it, and lo and behold, it brings pretty close to what you could have bought it from for the dealer. So hope so anyway. That's my 2 cents. I think there's going to be some misconceptions coming in there, and like you said, the machines they've got there are of the vintage and hour ranges that support higher auction value. So it will be interesting to see what happens nonetheless, and believe me that I'll be watching it.
Well, I suppose we'll have to review the data afterwards and see if they've changed the trajectory of the harvest market. It's
going to be there's a lot. This is a huge amount of equipment that going to have a dynamic effect on the market, and either it's going to solidify the market value, and it's going to be one of those things where people say like, "Yep, that's exactly what we've seen them sell for the past, so now we know that's what they're worth," or if it goes down, what does that? Does that reset the market, or does that just kind of a little blip in the radar, and things start move up? Which I don't necessarily think it's going to move the line up. If anything, it's just going to solidify what prices we see now and what that looks like. So, I don't think you're going to move the number up by any means.
I was talking with Dave Mowitz of Successful Farming 2 days ago, and he was saying that they're kind of expecting this entire sale to sell around that $20 million mark. So it's a lot of inventory to bring to market. Looks like they put a lot of thought into this of what pieces they're going to bring to market strategically versus where the glut is. And it'll be fun to do another podcast and review what happened.
We'll have to do that on because that's what, Wednesday, is that right? When the 30th is that correct?
I think the sale is on Tuesday. Of course, it's all online, so that brings a whole nother.
I wish I knew if they were going to change it or not, because I think that makes a difference than just.
I believe Dan.
I think that'll make a difference, and just kind of the ambiance of the auction. You know what I mean? The show. So I don't know. it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to it. Definitely going to be watching it on Tuesday, and looking forward to see what happens with the market after that. So, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we could chat about some market transparency and let all your listeners know what we're seeing in the market.
Yep, it'll be good stuff. So, Kyle, if folks wanted to reach out to TractorZoom and get on that platform, really take a look what's going on, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, if you want to look at all the upcoming auction inventory, just go to tractorzoom.com and search whatever you're looking for. Go browse all the auctions. If you're interested in looking at iron comps, which shows you all the historical prices of what we're using and talking about today, go to ironcomps.com. And Casey, you're actually you using this at your dealership, and what would you tell listeners of how you use it and why you like it?
When I look at it, when I'm using it, it's primarily the historical aspects of kind of year over year thing. I pay attention to that a lot, and I'm paying attention to the number of units that of a specific. If I'm looking at whatever an 8 through 70R or whatever it is, looking at the historical year over year numbers of inventory really helps me understand what kind of trend line we're seeing so far this year. And also with the way you have it broken out with retirement, consignment, liquidations, and estate sales make a big difference too. So if I'm seeing more consignments than I am retirements or liquidations, retirements or estates sales, if I'm seeing the more liquidations and more consignment sales, that tells me that there's a glut of stuff out there as far as dealerships kind of go. There's more. The lots are getting heavy of a specific unit when I start looking at that. So I just think the way you have it divided up, I can look at year over year data, and I can also look at what kind of sell it is and start making some decisions on some assumptions anyway on what I see happening in the marketplace. But good stuff.
Well, glad to see you guys are finding value in it, and looks like you use about every day inside the dealership. So
use it a lot.
Sounds like
I said a million times on this podcast, to me, auctions are the canary in the coal mine. The auction market reacts a hell of a lot faster than the retail market does. What you see on various listing sites, that is a true barometer of what the actual buying habits are of the farmer out there. So if you're not tracking auctions and you're in the equipment business, you need to be on Iron Comps. So get a hold of the fellas there at Iron Comps. Get a hold of Kyle. Kyle, what's the best way to get a hold of you and get signed up for this service?
Yeah, you can always shoot me an email, McMahon, McMahon at ironcomps.com, or shoot me a call, text message 641-919-5953. Happy to get you in touch with the folks here at Tractors and Iron Comps.
Well, good deal, man. Well, I am Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all the latest podcast drops, also as well as the blog posts that I make. Also check out movingironllc.com for all the latest Moving Iron info, and check out the Moving Iron LLC website for all of the information for the Moving Iron Summit that is happening September 1st through the 3rd in Nashville, Tennessee. You can come check out Kyle and the gang when they are out there as well. So also check out the Global Ag Network, the great folks out there and all the great podcasters that deliver great ag-related podcasts. And with that, I can't think of anything else that I can bore you with right now. So with Kyle McMahon, I'm Casey Seymour. Let's go move some iron, folks. Out.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.